Alright guys, I'm going to do a little video on gun safety, and I'm not an expert by no means when it comes to anything, but I do know a lot, and I've taught a lot of people gun safety. My dad, he was he, he was kind of an instructor for youth. Well, he was an instructor, but he was like a guy came from like some kind of police guy who's a friend of my dad's. He brought some guys from like a youth program down there. My dad was an instructor. He was certified to teach them, but he didn't make money, you know what I'm saying? He just kind of did it. It's kind of like a camp type of thing as a helper. But anyway, and those kids, a lot of them that I still talks to, went on to, you know, some of them snipers in the military, and real high-ranking snipers. And anyway, and they credit him with the things. But I was taught safety from a young kid. Um, I was taught to respect the guns, and the number one gun safety thing that you can ever teach somebody is always think the gun is loaded and ready to go off at any time, just by a hair of a trigger, or you drop it, or not necessarily drop it, but you don't want to be going around dropping your guns. This shit happens. But just be respectful of it. But like when I was introduced to gun, I got my first gun when I was 4 years old. I wasn't shooting it, but it was mine as soon as I was available or of age to shoot it. It was old Harrington and Richardson single shot shotgun. I still got it today. Um, it was my brother's before mine, and then it became mine. But it's even got a chipmunk stock on it. Stock's probably only like this big. Then it's the first gun to split my eye too. But especially with a 3-inch Magnum load. But anyway, just I'm not gonna say some kids, your kids, if they're trustworthy or not. They're little heathens that would love to be Jesse James, and twirl shit around. But I knew that the guns could kill, and I knew that they was dangerous. I never touched one. Even when I was shooting guns, unless my dad gave it to me. Bring your kids, if you're going to have them shooting or exposed to guns, you need to bring them up around guns. Not to be scared of them, but to respect them. And another major thing that you can teach for gun safety is always have it pointed in a safe direction. Teach the kids that to point at the ground, and if they got to, always think about backstops. Wall isn't going to stop. Tell your kids or whoever. I've taught a lot of people gun safety, and they've never had a problem. A lot of shooters today, even when I was younger, But teach them that the bullet don't goes for miles. A wall won't stop it. It'll go through 2 deers, 2 or 3 people. However you want to word it, and to know that kind of things. If you shoot into the woods, there might be somebody walking around in the woods. You shoot into a tree, if it's 30-06, it might go through the tree depending on how big it is. Just because you're shooting through metal, it might go through the type of metal it is. You got it pointed at the floor. If you got a house with a basement, someone's in the basement, it goes off, it might go through the floor. That's happened to plenty of people. Even when the gun just taking off safe, the safety mechanism be broken. Teach them about the safety mechanism might be broken. To always have it pointed in a safe direction. And to start off a kid on a gun, you need to pick a safer gun. Revolvers, if you're gonna start them off on pistols, I would recommend. I didn't shoot 1911. I think that was my first. No, maybe a Glock. Okay. No, that was an automatic 22. I was real young. Anyway. But if you're gonna start them off on pistols, I'd recommend a revolver. 22. Get them acquainted. Maybe a shotgun. Not something they're gonna go crazy with. But single bolt action 22 if you're gonna go for a rifle is great. Something to start them off slowly. I recommend anybody that's not got a lot of experience with guns, and they ask me what type of gun should they get, especially if they're a lady, not saying nothing about ladies, but ladies, whenever they ask about guns, seem like most of the time they're not brought up around guns as much, especially if they're asking somebody about it, and you know they're up in their late 20s or something like that, so they really don't know. Most of them don't have. I know a lot of girls that can actually shoot guys, but and probably know their stuff better than most guys, but they're not really brought up around it like guys are, or their grandpa didn't teach them about guns as much or something. And a revolver's pretty much, I don't recommend a Glock, but if I was to say an automatic pistol, I would probably recommend a Glock, just because it's so much like a revolver. You don't have safeties to take years to weld in your head about, you know, how to use a safety or what have you. Revolver, you point, pull the trigger, shoot, you cock it back, it's ready to go. Pretty much self-explanatory. And but some of the main things you can teach somebody is to point it in a safe direction, pretend that it's always loaded. Like I second guess myself all the time. Like I could have all these guns on the table are hot right now because I wanted them to be like that. You should not be too overly safe with your guns, because then you get nervous and scared, and you know, respect them. Don't point at your own damn foot while you're putting one in the chamber just because you're too confident. But you don't want to not want to touch it, you know, and be like, see, wasn't even thinking. It went down to a safe direction. That's how you weld in your head how it should be. So right now, ready to go. It's pointed in a safe direction. I'm not scared with it, especially if you're going to be packing, you know, like a concealed carry or what have you, or open carry, or hunting. But I think those are pretty much the main keys that you need to know about gun safety. Now, you also need to learn the mechanics of a gun. You know, learn about bullets. If a bullet goes off, if a bullet doesn't go off, you need to point it in a safe direction. Give it a couple minutes. It ain't going nowhere. Point it in a safe direction while you give it a couple minutes. You don't want it to get shot, you know, because you was impatient. The black powder is a whole different thing. I might go into more detail about bullets and safety, everything, if it's needed, you know. It's pretty much just a quick little video on just, I don't want people to get hurt out there. You know, there's a lot of people on the internet that if you didn't have a dad or somebody, or if your dad didn't know a whole lot about guns or what have you, or your dad wasn't into guns as much, you might, or didn't even just teach you about guns that much, you know. A lot of people, I'm sure, would look on the internet and hopefully this gives some people some help. Maybe it saves a life or two. Alright, thanks guys.